What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I am also welcoming myself back here in New Jersey from the sunny state of Florida in beautiful Bradenton at the IMG Academy to catch some GA Cup action, talk to some folks, and that's what I want to focus on here today. I want to go through kind of 10 or 15, I don't even know how many I wrote down, some of the really standout U17 players in and around MLS academies and what kind of I saw from them this week and from all of the scouts, more importantly, I should say, all of the scouts, all of the club executives, all of the people much smarter than me in terms of youth identification who have watched these kids a whole lot more than me. Again, I just wanted to kind of put all these thoughts down and talk to you guys about some of, again, the best academy talents in and around MLS. And with no further ado, let's go. I'm even sitting in front of flowers and a nice little map. This isn't the normal scarf wall that you got because there's some stuff in the office that I didn't feel like moving, so I just set it out here. I feel smarter already. All right, I'm going to run through a bunch of these talents, and again, I'm just going to focus on the kids that were with the U17s. Again, some of these kids are U15 eligible, which is pretty nuts, but I'm staying away from the U15s just because there's so much that can change between U15s and the pro level. Like, there's so much that can be done, and I feel more and more awkward talking about 13-year-old kids. Like, doing the whole Cavan Sullivan reporting felt a little weird. It was a story. I have no regrets. I'm glad that I did it. It's news, everything. It felt a little awkward just asking so many people about a 14-year-old child. Like, I want to leave him alone, but again, hey, you're signed for Manchester City, so sorry. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, like, that's why I'm just only going to focus on the 17s. There are some kids in this list who are U15 eligible. But yeah, so let's start with probably the biggest name on here because of all the hype he's gotten and the Manchester City move, Cavan Sullivan. He was with the Philly U17s after, again, like, I think if I had to guess, this is probably going to be his last involvement with the 17s. Like, maybe not last, but, like, for the most part, I think he's going to be a Union 2 player immediately from here on out and hopefully maybe make his debut by the end of the season. Don't, hold that hard and fast. Again, he's a 14-year-old kid. He doesn't turn 15 until September. A lot of things can change. It is unfair to put the weight of expectations on this kid. But again, if I had to guess, I'd say he makes his first team debut by the end of the season, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. Cavan didn't have the best tournament. From, again, what I saw and from the people I talked to, he was still special when he's on the ball. The way he moves, his intelligence, all of that. Like, this kid looks like a pro player at 14 by his mannerisms, by his touch, by everything he does. He tries to do things with purpose. Like, if he wanted to just dribble sideways, he could. If he wanted to just beat the same player over and over again, he could. But when he takes more touches, he's been direct, and it's been with a purpose, which, again, for any 14-year-old that's as talented as him, that's really good that they've been able to, I don't know whether or not they've had to coach that out of him or that came natural to him, but the fact that he's already knowing to do this, and this whole Philly team, like I will say, I've got at least two other guys that I want to talk about from this Philly team. They were really, really good. All of them played like pro players in terms of their mentality, in terms of the way that they understood the game. So that was something that I was most impressed about. Like, I will say that he was kind of targeted by other kids in this tournament, and I don't mean that in like a dangerous way where he was getting kicked the hell out of and all of that. It's just the normal competitiveness, which is good of like, if you're a 15-year-old, 16-year-old on one of the other teams, and you're like, this is the golden boy, this is Boy Wonder, okay, cool. While everyone's watching him, I'm going to show you that I'm the man too, like all this, right? Like, so of course, when teams were playing the Philly 17s, they were getting up. Like, every match that they play, that another team plays against the Philly 17s, is like a final because of all the eyes and everything that's going to come with Cavan Sullivan and this team. So, again, it was not easy. Again, he did not have the best tournament, and he got a very dumb red card against Hajduk Split in the quarterfinals. I don't know how long the suspension is, whether it's going to be 1 or 2 games, but that means he'll be out for the semifinals. At time of recording, the semifinals haven't happened. And if they advance, I don't know if he's going to be available for the final. So, as we wrote about in our feature on The Athletic, he's got fire in him. Like a couple of people joked, like, yeah, he's a little prick, but like, we love him, people love him. Like, that mentality, like, that side of it's good. But when you get up to that line and you go over it and you get a red card in a game that was already won, it was 4-2 in the dying minutes, and now he's unavailable for the games ahead. So again, this is a 14-year-old kid. Things happen. That's all right. We all make mistakes. Hopefully he'll learn from this. But like, that's the kind of the other side of having that fire, having that competitiveness, having that self-confidence, that it can kind of go too far. And there's another kid on this list that definitely has gone too far before. But again, one red card, things happen, but it's just a learning experience and developmental moment. All right, I promise it won't be that long with all these kids. LA Galaxy, 14-year-old forward, Mathis Albert. This kid is playing up with the U17s. He's just had some insane goal scoring record for this team in previous tournaments and in league play. The main takeaway from this section for you guys is I talked to several scouts, domestic, international. 2 scouts told me that they think he's better than Cavan Sullivan. At the very least, everybody was like, he should be talked about in the same group. One European scout said straight up, he's Cavan Sullivan, but without that hype, right? Like, so when you look at Mathis Albert and whatever next steps he takes and whatever happens in his development, he's on the same prospect level as Cavan Sullivan, according to the scouts who are much smarter than me and know this much more intimately. So I'll trust their opinion. I didn't get to see him much. The videos I've watched, phenomenal. But again, anybody can look sick in a highlight reel. Maybe not quite me, but I think a lot of us, if you put a camera, you could pick out a couple nice moments. But yeah, so Mathis Albert, LA Galaxy kid. I don't expect him to be at the Galaxy for long. He's got a French passport, and there is no shortage of teams in Europe who are trying to poach him from the Galaxy. So with that passport, he can move much more easily. I'm told that there's a ton of teams in France who want to take him in, a ton of teams in the Netherlands, Belgium, and again, I'm sure a lot of other places. But Mathis Albert, it'd be great if the Galaxy could get him signed, but I think it's an uphill battle. We'll see how that goes. All right, back to the Philly 17s. We're just going to do 2 players here back to back. Neil Pierre, center back. He's been with the second team. This kid, like, he's like 6'5" or 6'6", so he looks like, his frame looks like an adult. It was funny watching, like, I don't know exactly how tall Cavan Sullivan is, but he's 14 or shorter as is. Watching him and Neil Pierre dap each other up in the kind of pregame walk, it was beautiful. Like, he looks like, Cavan looks like he's half the size of Neil Pierre. This dude, he plays like a man too, right? Like, so he was winning every duel. He was getting stuck in, right? I don't know how great he is on the ball in terms of technical ability, passing ability. I don't know what he would look like in, say, a possession-based system. Not to say that he can't do that and not to say he can't develop that. It's just he's not asked to do that at all with Philly. I got to watch every minute of Philly's win over Jeonbuk Hyundai. That South Korean team was very, very good. They tried to play. They tried to move the ball. It was a really fascinating game because Philly was playing like their Philly first team. They were getting stuck in. They were trying to win duels, get the ball forward, counter press, everything, high intensity. And Jeonbuk was trying to play. And they couldn't get around the Philly press. Whenever they kind of broke it, Neil Pierre was in there to kind of win a challenge. Any 50-50 duel, if they tried to go direct, he was winning it, right? And it seemed like the MO was get the ball forward immediately. So there was a lot of times where maybe in a different system, he could have tried to put the ball down and play it, but he's clearly, the Philly system is not that. So he was being asked to play it long. So I don't want to knock him for that. I just want to flag that as, again, I don't know what he's going to be like in terms of a ball playing center back, but his physical tools look really elite. Aerial ability, understanding space, his athleticism to kind of track runners, all these things that are so important in the modern game. He looks like he has it all. Let's see how he develops. Really, really good player. One more Philly kid. Honest to God, I could name 5 or 6, but I don't want to just keep on naming the whole team. I'm going to go with Jamir Johnson. He's 15 years old. He's 2008 born. I think I could call him a natural winger, but Philly don't play with wingers, obviously. So he was playing in that, like, Shuttler role, like a central midfielder, but playing it the same way that the Union first team is letting Quinn Sullivan do it, where, like, he's really like the 4th attacker. So he's more of an attacker in this system than a box-to-box player. He made his MLS Next debut with the Philly Union second team already this year. Again, he's 15 years old. He's a really, really big talent. I have to assume he's on track for a homegrown deal very soon. He scored in that game for Jeonbuk. He was a difference maker every time I watched him. Like, this kid's highlight reel is awesome because his dribbling ability is elite. Technical ability, like, I don't know exactly where he's going to project long-term positionally, whether it's going to be a team that plays with wingers, or maybe he's best as a second forward in this 4-4-2 with Philly, or maybe he could play central. Like, I don't know, right? Like, if the fact that he's being able to play Shuttler right now, we'll see what he can do kind of in the second team as he physically gets bigger and continues to mature and continues to develop. If he's able to have that in his game, he's absolutely going to make it as a difference maker because, again, that technical ability is really, really good. Quinn Sullivan was somebody who I did not know until this year could impact the game, the professional MLS game from that Shuttler role. And I think if I'm Jamir Johnson, I'm looking at that being like, hey, maybe I want to play winger or maybe I want to be a second forward. But if I can do that, I'm going to get minutes no matter what, right? Like, so I was really, really impressed with Jamir Johnson. I got to imagine Philly's going to tie him down with a homegrown deal soon. But this kid is really, really good. Moving on, LAFC defensive midfielder Jude Terry. He's 15 years old. The club loves him. Scouts I've talked to really, really love him. What I was told is that he's really decisive on the ball. Like, his passing ability is obviously very good to play as a 6 in LAFC's possession-based type system or what they want to be a possession-based system. Hasn't really been with the first team, right? But look at who's been playing defensive mid for this team in their existence. It's Ilie Sanchez, it's Edward Atuesta. Those dudes play with the ball. That's what Jude Terry's going to be asked to do at the youth level. Again, so I was told that he's very clean, he's decisive, he's quick to react defensively off the ball, which is very good. He understands space very well is one line I got from a scout, which is very important for a defensive mid at any level. Again, 15 years old, that's just great. He's a very big talent from what I'm told. Like, he's in this kind of elite group, and more or less all the guys here that I'm talking about, from what I've been told, are in this like elite group of talent of the U17s here. And that doesn't mean that they're the only U17s in the country that are going to make it or might not, right? Like, I want to say that 100 times here. This is just where it is right now and trying to illuminate some of the talents and what I've heard. But don't take this as fact. Don't take this as written in stone. So many things can change. There's early developers. There's late bloomers. Some kids just don't make it. Injuries, whatever, right? Like, some kids come out of nowhere. Like, I want to stress that over and over again. When you're looking at these youth lists, do not take it as fact. Just take it as a snapshot of where things are right now. That being said, Jude Terry, I really hope that he's, the first LAFC kid to like really break into the first team. They haven't had that, which is surprising given the talent in the LA area and this team's, their kind of developmental ethos. Most of their development stories, if not all of them at this point, have been players that they've signed from abroad, brought in, made better, and moved on, sold on, right? Like Diego Rossi, first and foremost, like Diego Palacios, and why am I playing Jose Cifuentes? Almost, so he's only been gone for a few months, and actually almost gone for a year. Anyway, hopefully Jude Terry is the one that kind of breaks through if nobody ahead of him does. Another defensive midfielder I've heard a ton of great things about, Adri Mehmeti, Red Bulls defensive midfielder, number 6. He just turned 15 on Saturday. Happy birthday. So he's a 2009. He's in that age group with Cavan Sullivan and Mathis Albert. One scout told me he's absolutely got a higher ceiling than Daniel Edelman. And again, I think Daniel Edelman is a very good, he's going to project as a very good MLS player. He's already been starting for the Red Bulls. He was the US U20s captain. So a couple scouts being comfortable enough to be like, yeah, he's absolutely got a better ceiling. Like that's no joke. That's high praise. Another scout I talked to said this is probably their best midfield prospect to come through since Tyler Adams, which again, they're not necessarily saying that he's going to be Tyler Adams' group. That was an elite talent, obviously, everything that he's done, U.S. national team captain. But what they're saying is, okay, the club and scouts and everybody knew that Edelman and Peter Stroud and a couple others, Bento Estrella, that all of these players are going to be good and pros, right? But like they're talking about Mehmeti as like, hey, maybe he could touch, or like he's got a chance to hit that ceiling that kind of Tyler Adams did. Again, I'm trying to be careful with how I phrase it, but just wanting to relay what scouts are telling me. He's a U.S. Youth International. He's also eligible for Albania, and he's represented them a bit. He's trained with Red Bull Salzburg. He's another kid. Like I think he's firmly within the Red Bull second team at this point. Like after GA Cup, I assume that's where most of his minutes are going to come, rather than the Red Bull 17s. But we'll see. Again, very very big talent. I'm very curious to see where his trajectory goes, because the Red Bulls have a ton of really good young center mids, and they've over and over and over again, whether it's been Tyler Adams to Sean Davis to Daniel Edelman to Peter Stroud to, you name any of these, like the club is promoting at all positions, but particularly they've been churning out professional central midfielders. So it's very exciting to see Mehmeti coming through. NYCFC attacker Maxi Carrizo. He projects as a 10. He can develop as a free 8, I think, and maybe you could play him as like an inverted left winger or right winger, where he can cut it on his left foot. But the point here is he's not. From scouts I talked to and from what I saw, he does not project as like a difference-making winger, because he doesn't have the athleticism to kind of eliminate people off the dribble. He's extremely technical. He was kind of on another level whenever he got the ball for NYCFC. He's so talented, but his future is in the middle of the field, I think. And primarily, if he could play 10, that would be it. But I really hope that he's able to develop, and so he has more options to play as like a free 8 and like a 4-3-3. Like, you look at Liverpool, you look at Manchester City, like a lot of teams at the top level don't play with 10s. So as long as you have that club in your bag to be able to play as an 8.5, to do enough against the ball to last as an 8.5, that's important. That's the next step for him. He's got a lot of bite, right? And from what I've been told from asking around, it's a little bit further than Cavan Sullivan in terms of this. Look, last year when I was at GA Cup, I was looking really forward to seeing him. This was not long after he signed his homegrown deal, so I was like, can't wait to watch this kid play. He got a red card and he was suspended, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. So I missed him. Then I've heard some stories. I've heard some things. He's definitely can go over the line sometimes. in this game that I saw against PSV, they ended up losing 4-2, but they were up 2-0, and I believe it was the second goal where Carrizo got fouled. The ball was played on. The defender kind of fell over him, and as the referee was already focusing on the play going the other way, I could see it from the stands. He definitely kicked out, and in the NYCFC scored on this play. In the age of VAR, that goal is getting called back, and it's a red card. And again, maybe I'm wrong. There's no replays, but I saw it pretty clearly from where I was standing that like that stuff just ain't gonna fly when you get into a stadium with VAR when you're not playing youth soccer. So he's got to cut that out. But again, man, he's 14 or 15, whatever he is. Like, I'm not writing him off. I'm not saying he's a bad kid or a bad person, right? Like, we'll just see. But that's something that you got to watch. He had a few hard challenges. Twice within a 5 or 10 minute period. He definitely fouled somebody into the advertising boards, and I'll tell you, I think he knew what he was doing in terms of where he was on the field and the physical barrier that was next to the touchline. So again, these are just things to watch. On the positive note, super talented. We'll see how he projects. Again, he's already signed a homegrown deal. He's been with the Argentine youth international camps. I can't say Argentina, apparently, idiot. So yeah, this is a really, really high level talent. And we'll see how he progresses through the NYCFC system. A few more here. I'm going to try to be quicker. Chase Adams, Columbus Crew forward, 15 years old. He's already scored in MLS Next Pro for the Crew's second team. He's got about 150 minutes, I think, with the second team at this point. He was brought in for GA Cup with the 17s because, again, he's 15 years old. He's eligible for this. Columbus have a very good pathway to pro since Wilfred Nancy took over. What Corey Ray, Mark Nichols, and everybody in that front office has done with the second team is very impressive. So when they have a kid that's 15 years old getting into the second team, scoring goals, from what I've told about his kind of talent level, this is a kid you have to watch. Two forwards playing for FC Cincinnati. I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize in advance if I do. Stefan Chirila, 2007 year, born, 17 years old, former Philly Academy. So a lot of that, Philly, Cincy knowledge of Chris Albright and everybody that's kind of been around, and Pat Noonan, been around the Philly team. He used to be at the Philly Academy, came to Cincy. He actually scored against the Philly Academy at the U17, at the GA Cup U17s, when Cincy upset Philly and won 2-0. He's a center forward. After the games were done on Friday, his 5 goals led the U17 group, which is very, very impressive. Again, I'm recording this on Saturday afternoon. Haven't seen any updates. We'll see where it goes. He played for Cincy's MLS Next Pro team twice. I think this might be his last run with the youth team. I think that he's going to pretty firmly be in the second team from here on out. We shall see. His strike partner at this tournament was Jykese Fields. Fields is actually a Hoffenheim U17 player, but he's German-American. He was born in North Dakota. He was born in 2007, 16 years old. He's, he guessed it for Cincy at the tournament, and I'm told, obviously, since you're trying to sign him, since you're trying to bring him in, Cincy and Hoffenheim have a partnership, so maybe that'll make things a little bit easier, but we'll kind of see how this one progresses. He had 3 goals and 5 assists in 700 minutes for the Hoffenheim U17s this year. We'll see what happens. He scored against the Philly 17s as well. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Again, center forward. We'll see how this goes. Maybe he'll be in the Cincy setup before long. Who knows? One non-MLS player because he's American, Austyn Jones, a PSV center forward. He's a Dutch youth international, but he's U.S. eligible. He scored against NYCFC. He's got a big frame. It's very easy to see him progressing to the professional ranks. It's just his body, his athleticism, his technique, everything else. It seems like he's going to be able to take the next step. And again, being a Dutch youth international is a big feather in his cap. I will say, I spotted about 2 or 3 U.S. youth soccer representatives talking to Austyn Jones after the game against NYCFC. So he is firmly on the United States radar. Let's see if he ends up in any camps in the future. All right. That was the fun stuff. We got to get into the serious stuff real quick here. The Red Bull Academy teams, the U15s and 17s, decided to pull out of the GA Cup after the U17s were alleged racial abuse by 2 different teams, Monterrey early in the tournament and then Hajduk Split on Friday. It is a terribly sad situation. There was a player for Hajduk Split who got sent off. I was told that it was because of a racial slur that he said to the Red Bulls players. They were shaken up. Look, it's terrible. What else can you say on this front? What I want to focus on here, shout out to the Red Bull boys. The emotional intelligence, the stones to stand up in the face of racism and say, you know what? We could play another game. We could say, screw it, we're going to be competitive. A lot of dopes commenting on my reporting around this situation to say, oh, you settle it on the field, or, oh, don't be so sensitive. I'm going to struggle not to curse here. It makes me emotional to talk. Like, these are children, man. Like, they don't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. But rub some dirt on it and play on is not the solution. I don't have the solution, but it's certainly not that. So again, the fact that these boys stood up it's beautiful, honestly. I do get a little emotional thinking about it. The thing that always will hit me in my heart, in my soul, in sports, no matter how many games I go to, no matter how many people I talk to, no matter big events, no matter you think you've seen it all that, like you can become cynical with time, all of that, right? No matter what's always going to get me is that locker room feeling. That knowledge that looking at your boys and knowing you're 10 toes down, no matter what, no questions asked for every single one of them. And the fact that these boys rallied around each other and they said, this is bigger than soccer. We're coming out. Hey, screw these racists. I don't care. I don't care if we're not going to play. I'm out of here. Say no to racism, all that stuff. Putting their arms around the two boys who got racially abused. There's a former college player who quote tweeted some of my reporting on this, and this is a story that I've heard before, that in the past when this has happened, it's so lonely, particularly when your teammates aren't there for you like this. When you feel like you have to ask your teammates in the locker room, or they say, hey, what happened? Like, oh, I just got racially abused and nobody came to my side. The fact that these boys came out, like, it's just beautiful, man. Again, the emotional intelligence, the maturity, all that stuff. Shout out to the Red Bulls U15s. They weren't subject to any of this abuse, thankfully, which sucks that I even have to, clarify that. They were in the quarterfinals of the GA Cup. The 17s decided we're out. And the U15s said, yeah, we're going to follow. We're right behind you, man. Shout out to the parents who empowered these kids to make the decisions themselves. Shout out to the Red Bulls coaches for empowering these kids to make the decisions themselves, for standing up for their boys, for having an atmosphere, a culture, a locker room where these kids felt comfortable saying, no, this is how we feel. And the coach is saying, yeah, let's do it. We got you. Again, I've talked to a couple of these coaches. Honest to God, man, like, this is such an awful, horrible situation. I really am just trying to focus on some of the positives here because there's at least a little bit of a silver lining. Shout out to the Philly Union 17s. They played head-to split in the next round because the Red Bulls U17s left, and the team that when they alleged racial abuse, they got to stay, and they played the quarterfinals against Philly. Philly beat them 4-2. Philly wore red tape. Everyone had red wrist tape in solidarity with the Red Bulls. These are two teams that are rivals. Those games at the academy level, at the pro level, all of that, it gets heated, man. Like, that's no joke. This isn't a fake rivalry. It's bigger than sports. It's bigger than a game. It's a horrible situation. I can't imagine what's going through the mind. I cannot begin to personally understand the lonely feeling, the hurt, the pain, that all that caused. I'm a white guy. I haven't had to deal with this in my life. I can empathize, but again, when you're in their shoes, you never really know. All I can say is it's not my place, and who cares if I say I'm proud, but I'm really proud of those kids for how they handled it. The racists will never win. These dopes, these clowns, they will never win. We always will win. So keep standing up for what's right. Keep fighting the good fight. These clowns that'll tell you you're wrong or don't believe you or say, oh, if something happened, prove it, whatever. Let them go, man. They're not going to win. We are. So shout out to the Red Bull U17s. Shout out to kind of everybody. Again, MLS looked into it pretty quickly. Things were dealt. These are difficult situations for all involved. But look, it is what it is. It's unfortunately part of our world, part of our game. Hopefully it won't be at some point. But again, had to talk about this. And again, well and truly very proud for how the Red Bull kids handled this. Oh, that was heavy. I like being able to just throw that stuff to Andrew Wiebe because he's much smarter and much better than me on these situations. He's a broadcast pro unlike me. So I do wish that I could have kicked that one to Wiebe. I don't want to end on that. Honestly, God, tweeted too much on Friday, argued with too many blindly devoted Croatian fans for Hajduk Split. Talking about this serious stuff. I want to laugh. I want to have fun. So I'm not ending this video there. let's just, story time with Scoops. I don't know. I don't have a name for this without sounding so corny. I had a 5-hour layover in Chicago because Florida to Chicago to New Jersey. What kind of route is whatever, is what it is. I didn't plan far enough in advance, so I had to get the cheapest flight. So I had a 5-hour layover, and I was like, you know what? I want to try deep dish. Got to tell you, it was great. I thought I still prefer New York pizza, and you can like both. Like, that's okay. Doesn't have to be one or the other. I liked it. I thought I was going to like it, but I was even pleasantly surprised. It's very good. I ate the whole damn thing. It was glorious, and then I immediately hated myself and felt awful and was like, I couldn't even, like, move my arm to sign the check to leave. I was like, my body can't do anything because it's dealing with all the carbs it needs to break down. So shout out Chicago Deep Dish Pizza. And that'll do it. Hopefully I'll be back with a couple days with something a little bit lighter than some of this stuff. But GA Cup, always a fun time. Always great to see all the folks. David Goss, the legend. All the other wonderful broadcasters down there. All the employees. Always good. Always good to run into people. And hey, I didn't get sunburned. Look at me go.